So when we talk about the architectures that we have, so there are different architectures of the data warehouse that are available in that are available uh, within the real time. So as I told you, we have two authors who has proposed the theory of data warehouse. One is Rolf Kimball and one is William Moore. So they also proposed the process. I mean, they also proposed different architectures which are used widely in the real time. Okay. So the first architecture that we are going to understand is the virtual data warehouse. So virtual data warehouse here is nothing but we are not building any physical data warehouse here. So it is just that we are doing the reporting on top of the OLTP applications. So we are not building any warehouse system here. There is no ETL process. There is nothing called as the ETL process involved in building this kind of architecture. So your OLTP systems itself acts as a warehouse, and this virtual architecture is useful for all the small scale reporting, all the small scale industries for the purpose of reporting. So where they do not require any reporting on the historical analysis, or you do not do the reporting on the historical trends. So this kind of warehouse design is called as a virtual data warehouse and virtual data warehouse. So if you want to, I mean, you might have heard about different types of reporting which is carried out based on the Oracle apps or the Crystal reports like that. So all those things are built on the OLTP system, but not on the warehouse. So this virtual data warehouse is nothing but we do the reporting directly on the OLTP applications, and this is not suitable for the large scale clients or the large scale industry. So it is very limited, and it also affects the performance of the OLTP system. So that is a virtual data warehouse. So API is nothing but it's an application interface, which is nothing but reporting. Okay, so these are the reporting tools that will access the data from the system, that will access the data from the OLTP system, and the reports will be accessed by business users. So this is the virtual data warehouse. And you have something called as an enterprise data warehouse. So the next kind of architecture is the enterprise data warehouse. So this is widely used architecture. So in most of the projects within the real time, so this kind of architecture is much used in the real time. So here we do not have any data mart concept. So here we have only a single centralized database where I am storing all my reporting data within that. So I use the different APIs. When I say APIs, it's nothing but reporting tools. I use the different reporting tools to perform the reporting. This enterprise data warehouse, why it is widely used? Because it is storing all the data in a centralized database. So there is no need of any, there is no need to spend any money on the complex architecture or the infrastructure wise, and the cost wise. It's a very cost effective program. It's a very cost effective process. Okay, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of cost, it's a very cost effective process. So for all the medium range clients, like whenever you have the data around the 500 GB, then this kind of warehouse design is much used in the real time. Okay, so here it does not mean that we don't have the staging area or the ODS area. So they are involved, but it is not shown here, but they are always involved within the warehouse process. Right? And we have something called as a metadata repository. So metadata repository is nothing but it is a storage area where it stores metadata about the ETL programs, where it stores the metadata about the ETL program. So when you create the ETL programs, the metadata of that ETL programs will be stored into this metadata repository. So this is the enterprise data warehouse architecture. Right? And you have another architecture called as a multi-tied data warehouse architecture. So here this kind of architecture is preferably for the larger scale clients. So when you have large amount of data and you have different subject areas and you have more number of business users are present, and the size of the data warehouse is very large. So at that time we go for this kind of multi-tier data warehouse architecture. So one such architecture is this one. See, we are first loading the data into the centralized system, which is called as a enterprise data warehouse here. We first load the data into the enterprise data warehouse, and then based on the scenario, based on the uh, based on the uh, based on the amount of data we have, if the data is growing very fastly and we have more amount of data and number of business users are more, at that time we just build the data mart for the purpose of performance, right? So this kind of data mart creation is called as a dependent data mart. So the data mart which is dependent on the enterprise data warehouse, it is called as a dependent data mart. So according to Billimon, so this kind of process is called as a top-down process or the top-down approach, and this is something suggested by Billimon. So according to Billimon, so he suggested this approach. So we are going to integrate the data from the source systems into the data warehouse, and later we divide the data according to the reporting needs into the individual data marts. So this approach is called as a top-down approach. So this is a time-consuming design, and you need a long amount of time to deliver this kind of architecture. So we have both. We have both. We have certain advantages are there and disadvantages also present here. Okay. So when you have this kind of approach, it takes a longer time to deliver this kind of approach, longer time to deliver this kind of approach, and the infrastructure-wise also it will cost a lot. It's a most cost-oriented approach where the client has to spend a lot of amount for the purpose of infrastructure. And this kind of architecture is used by the very big clients like Walmart or the Target or the Citibank, where you have huge amount of data and you have more number of business users. Okay. And we have another architecture called as this is also multi-tiered architecture, but it's a bottom-up approach. Means so this kind of warehouse design is also suggested by Ralph Kimball, and here the data mart is created independently. So this data mart is called as a independent data mart. Independent data mart. So the data marts here are designed without the use of the centralized data warehouse. So instead of combining the data from the legacy system into a single data warehouse, we can deliver this kind of architecture at a different phases. Means in the first phase we can build the data mart for sales. After that we build the data mart for finance. After that we build the data mart for the operations like this. So later on, if it is required, I can combine all the data from multiple data marts into a single data warehouse. So here the data mart is built first, then the enterprise data warehouse is built. So this kind of approach is called a bottom-up approach. This kind of approach is called as a bottom-up approach. So here the data warehouse is summarized at different levels. So as I told you, at different levels we have the data summarization. Like in any warehouse design within the data warehouse, we summarize into different levels like the daily level, weekly level, or quarterly level, or the yearly level that we have here. So you can see highly summarized data, lightly summarized data, and current value data is present. And you can see when I say highly summarized, it's at monthly level, lightly summarized, it's at weekly level, and daily summarized, it's like a daily level. We have the data within the data warehouse. Right? So that is about how you have the different architectures within the warehouse system.